Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm working on my Ficus religiosa, my large one, and it has a lot of problems. I noticed in the plant room it had scale insects on it, so I've got it out here in the greenhouse where I can see all the insects a little more clearly, and I'm in the process of scraping them all off and spraying the tree with soap and water. But that's not the only problem this tree has. It grew really well until I put it in this shallow pot. And since then I started getting branch dieback and the tree was weak and it didn't grow with a ton of vigor. And I'm thinking now that the reason is this shallow pot. Here is a look at the tree. So it's pretty healthy looking from the front here, but I noticed it had scale insects on the stems and on the leaves. And this winter I got dieback again on this branch here. All that ramification is lost. But the branch is surviving just barely and it's covered in scale. So I've got to get to this tree, get it back to health. And I've often heard that, ficus, you put them in a shallow pot for the show. And then after the show you put them back in a deeper pot. And I always kind of wondered, well, why is that? And I've come to the realization that ficus roots like to grow downwards. They don't like to grow horizontally. And I'll show you an example of, what really made me learn that lesson. And I'll show you that on my, my Natal ficus. Here we are in the plant room. So if we come over to my prom temple here, you can see the aerial roots are really growing well on the temple itself. They're just kind of covering that entranceway, growing down from high up on the trees. So yeah, I was really pleased with the root development of this planting over the winter. I couldn't ask for better. So what is of note is I have all these aerial roots that come out of the trees, and there was one aerial root over here, and you can see how thick it is. There's my finger, and it grew out of the pot and it kind of wrapped around the pot a bit and then started heading down towards the floor. So here's a look. So the root grew down and it actually reached the floor. And then it started growing along the floor here. And it's still growing. You can see the active tips here. So my point is that on this temple, anything growing down, like this root, thickens up incredibly. Whereas roots that are growing more horizontally don't. So I think, it's just like the top of your trees. Any branches that grow straight up thicken up really rapidly. And then branches that are more horizontal grow slower. And I think it's the same for the roots. I think it's exactly the same. That roots growing straight down will thicken up and grow rapidly. And roots growing out more horizontally will grow slowly. So that's what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm observing also. So yeah, I'll keep that in mind. So my Ficus religiosa out in the greenhouse, I think it's in too shallow a pot. I'm back in the greenhouse now. So here's a look at the pot that the tree is in, and you can see it's quite shallow. It's not very deep. And parts of the tree are growing really vigorously, but that's generally in springtime. When the light starts getting brighter, it does grow with a lot of vigor. But in the winter time, as I said, when it's the dark days of winter, even though it was under grow lights, it still really got weak and just barely survived. This branch had fruit on it last fall, And I noticed, you know, even before it had scale insects, the branches started withering. And I lost that branch. And I thought I was going to lose this one, but it recovered. So, yeah, I'm thinking a deeper pot. Now, I don't have a deeper pot than this. That's part of the problem. Otherwise, I'd repot it today. So for today, I'm going to prune the tree up. Right now, it's kind of growing too tall, so I can't put it under the lights anymore. And I'm going to remove all the dead branches. And I'll keep it out here in the greenhouse where it'll get, you know, the good sunshine. And I'll keep my eye on it for insects and really watch the tree. And hopefully, you know, it'll recover with a lot of strength in this same pot. I'll water it very carefully. And we'll just see what happens, and then I'll look around for a deeper pot for it. I think it'll really help the tree out. I'm going to start the work now, pruning back all these long shoots. So I'm always looking for leaves that are fanning out from the tree and pruning just above those. So my new branches come in, you know, creating a broom-style canopy, which is what I eventually want on this tree, is a big umbrella-shaped canopy. So here I go. I'll leave this one branch that's really weak. I'm going to leave the pruning on that. I'm just going to clean up the scale insects. But there's one kind of growing inside here. I'm going to prune that one back. And I'll leave, you know, a fair amount of growth on it. So I'll just take the tip off here, like that. Keeping some good leaves to keep this branch alive and healthy. And then coming off the main trunk here, I've got some leaves. And again, I'm not pruning it right back. I'm keeping it, uh-oh, that's the zombie apocalypse. I'm keeping vigor in the tree. So just kind of shortening the height. That way I can get it under the grow lights. It's just growing up too tall. I think I'll go here. And then I have this big shoot here that I need to prune back to, and I'm going to go back to here. Take that whole top off. Now, I have another branch up front that's not really weak. I'm going to prune it back to here. Just making the tree a little more compact, a little more manageable. It was getting quite sprawling. Okay, so I'll put all these leaves on the compost pile, and then I'll work on descaling the tree, getting rid of all the scale insects and spraying it down once again with soap and water. Here's a look at one of the leaves, and you can see all the little scale blisters on the leaf here. So I just rub those off. They're on the stem, and I've got to check the underside. Yeah, just scrape all the scale blisters off, and then I'll respray it all with soap and water. And that should take care of them. I've just got to check every leaf. There's some more on the back of this leaf. They're kind of hard to spot in the plant room. I have way too many trees in the plant room, and the health of the trees is suffering because it's so crowded, the plant room, I can't get to the plants at the back. So even if I notice scale insects on them, I would have to like move so many trees out of the way, and I don't really have space for them. So I've got to do something about that for next year. I've got to get my collection, downsize it a bit. And I say that every year, and it always seems to grow larger. But I definitely have to keep my tropicals under control. Otherwise, you know, when the trees get unhealthy, it's just, there's no point having a lot of unhealthy trees. It's better to have a few really healthy ones that you're taking good care of. Yeah, so I'm just going to continue picking off scale. Yeah, it's a little
worse than I thought, the scale on the tree. I didn't realize there's so many scales underneath the leaves. Like, look at this leaf. It's got blisters all on the underside, and on the top side there's nothing. Then I just get the soap and water and you just spray it all down again. Keep spraying and rinsing and rubbing scale insects off. And eventually you get the whole tree scale free. And they seem to come back every winter. It's ficus and scale go hand in hand. It's pretty tough to get rid of them totally. I try every year, but there's always, one or two trees in the plant room that seem to get the scale on them. But some of the ficus in the plant room are totally scale free. They're doing really well. And it seems to be a never-ending cycle. The winter starts off, all the trees are nice and healthy from summer, and then slowly over the winter you start getting insect problems, and then you just kind of hope they hang in there until they get back outside where you can spray them and treat them and look at them, and then they start growing really nicely again all summer, and then winter comes again. It's a tough cycle. It's just that I have too many trees. That is the cause of it all. If you just have a few trees, it's easy to spray them and keep tabs of them. But when they're packed in the plant room, it's tough to look at them all. Okay. Well, I'll work away. I'll work away getting all these scale insects off, and I might have to use a toothbrush on some of them and just descale them, spray them with soap and water, and then eventually rinse the entire tree down. It's turned into a real spa day for my Ficus religiosa. I've spent probably an hour and a half going over the tree, looking for scale insects and scraping them off, spraying it with soap and water, rinsing it, checking it again. And I think I finally got it scale free. It took a lot of work. I just thought there was like a few on some of the leaves, but on the underside of the leaves, some of the leaves were just covered and the petioles were covered, and there was scale insects on the branches. So it took a lot of work to get it all cleaned off. So now that it's out in the greenhouse here, I can get at it. I can spray it down regularly, killing any remaining scale insects if there's any left on the tree. So my next task, I've got these dead branches, which this one died off very early after I brought it inside. And I think, as I said, it's just the tree wasn't very vigorous in this shallow pot. I think I need a deeper pot. So I'm going to prune away all my dead branches so everything on the tree is living. And I'll leave it out here in the greenhouse and just keep my eye on it very carefully and spray it regularly to totally get rid of any scale. If there's any, little blisters remaining, the soap and water will kill those. And I'll try and nurse it back to health, and I'll look for a pot. I'll look for a deeper pot and get it repotted, maybe, early summer. Okay, so off come the dead branches, and I like to just cut the tip off to make sure the branch is dead, looking for it, if there's any sign of it bleeding, and there's none there. So I cut back a little further, still no sign of it bleeding. Cut back to here, still no sign of that branch bleeding. No, it's totally dead. Yeah. So I need to take it off right to the base down here. I'll prune it off kind of just, well, let me see. Again, I'll just double check that's dead. Dead still. Just in case the base of the branch happened to be alive, but it's not. So I'll take it right back. Here I go, big cut coming up. There. Yeah, that branch was totally dead. You can see there's just a little bit of living tissue up in here. The branch was dead. So I'll seal that up with my rubber cement. It seems to work really well as a sealant. Like that. So that's one dead branch removed. Next I've got these ones. So again, I'll cut back. Dead. Dead. Still dead. And I'll come back to the base. You can see the bark is all shriveled, so it's definitely dead. And I'll seal that cut too. Like that. And then on this branch, this is the living part, so I think this one's dead, yeah. So I'll take that off. And then there's part of the back of it that's also dead. You can see it's all shriveled. So that's gone. Now, are there any other branches that are dead on this tree? I don't think so. Oh, maybe this one on the interior here is dead, yeah. Yeah. So that's got to come off. I'm giving the tree one more spray and a rinse before I leave it for today. Okay, I'll let that sit for a bit and then rinse the tree off. Okay, it's time for the final rinse. Okay, so that is done. The tree is rinsed off. The soil's rinsed out. It's ready to grow. I'll just tilt the pot to get all the remaining water out. Tilt it up even more here. Like that. That'll help drain all the water out of the soil. In fact, I'll even give the soil another rinse. Yeah, with the tree on the angle like this, if I rinse the soil out, it should really flush it all out nicely. You see there's still a little bit of soap in the moss there.
I think this spa day for my Ficus religiosa is going to be really good for it. I think it'll be on its way to restoring the vigor in the tree. I'll try and get it as healthy as I can for the early summer repotting into a slightly deeper pot. And I think it's really going to help the tree grow and stay healthy in the future. So I think, I definitely have too many trees in my plant room. They're all kind of crowded in and it's really hard to see if the tree has insects or not. And I found there was way more insects on this tree than I even imagined. So, yeah, it's hard to give away trees because a lot of them, I've been developing them over many years. And you always think, well, I just got to get them through winter back outside and they get all healthy again. And then you bring them in for the winter and the health tends to decline. And then it's a never-ending cycle. And it's hard to give away tropical trees because no one wants them. No one has space for them indoors for the winter. So I'm kind of stuck with them. And I'll have to think of a solution. Maybe I can expand my area in the basement to fit more of the temperate trees down there. Like some of the Ficus microcarpa, they're fine staying cool for the winter. and I had them in the plant room this year, so that would clear up a lot of space. So I'll have to think of a solution for next year, and I know I say that every year, but yeah, something has to be done. So that is all for today. A bit of a negative video, but hopefully it'll have a positive outcome. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.